All right, guys. Hopefully you can hear me. We'll get ourselves ready to rock and roll, and hopefully everybody's staying safe. I just from our end, quickly on this recruiting class, I know we're really excited. It's a really special class, and to be quite honest with you, I think the thing that I would like to give a couple thank yous just before we get going that I think need to be extended, and I think the starting point really for us is our players. You recruit great players when the culture and the people within your program define what your program's about. And so, our players, to be honest with you, have done an incredible job through this recruiting process. I think my number one statement that I say to any parents is ask the players what's going on in our program. And when you sign a class as special as this one, the credit has to go to our players and the time, the effort, and the energy that they spend to help us recruit. Really appreciative of that. I think the other piece that doesn't fall short is our academic staff. Amber, she is incredible. She's kind of the rock star of our program, and what we've done in the classroom still matters in this world. And I think what our kids have done and the standard of excellence that goes on within our academics, we're really grateful for, and our academic staff was critical to our success. We've flown all over the country. I feel like the last 2.5 weeks have been crazy. Joni and Aaron allow us to get a lot of things done in a short amount of time, and we certainly got the best pilot in the country in Joe Crandall, who's been incredible. So with that said, any questions that you guys have, I'll certainly answer them.
If you have any questions for Coach, please raise your hand in the chat and unmute when called. First question is from John Schaefer from WOI. Overall, this is the best recruiting class Iowa State's ever landed. You hit on the players aspect of it, but what was it that allowed your staff to really convince some of these top-end recruits that Iowa State Ames was the place for them to be come the fall next year?
Yeah, I just say this, John. I think for us, it certainly is twofold. I think the first couple years, we were trying to figure out, and sell maybe a hope and a vision to a program. And I think the reality of what we've had the ability to become over the last 3 football seasons has allowed our coaching staff to go out and some of the top-notch players that have been on our board or we've been able to identify and create real, authentic relationships with these young people and their families and create a great trust and a great bond through the recruiting process. And I think that's always helped us, but especially over the last 2 years, I think with our ability to have an extended amount of time to create those relationships and to create those relationships on reality of what our program has become both on and off the field, I think that's really been big for us.
Rob Gray from the Cedar Rapids.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, Rob, how are you? That's a good tune. You got a new place that you're identified with, so it's good to hear you, Rob. Congrats.
I appreciate that a ton, Coach. I found it fascinating you brought up the players because it's not often talked about. Even though they're the focus on Saturdays, right? A, what do you task your players with, or ask them to do in the recruiting process? And B, is that like your program's culture grown over time, guys being more eager, guys being more willing to really throw themselves into this aspect of it?
Man, Rob, I would say for us, it's the number one aspect. And, to me, I think one of the things that we're losing perception in a lot of ways in our world, and especially in the college football world. But it is still about what's going on in the locker room. And again, we're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds who, quite honestly, they define where we go and what they believe in and what we stand for. And I would rather a young person come here because they have obviously great trust in myself and the coaches, but most importantly, have unbelievable trust in the people that they're going to play with every day. And, I think for my end, even taking myself back as the college football player, how critical the relationships in that locker room and the people in that locker room are to the long-term success of your program. And, what I think I've always tasked our players with is to be able to leave the program in a better place than they found it. And, one of the ways they can do that is impact and step back, reach back, and impact the people around them. And I really believe the great players in our program have bought into that mission, and whether they've been freshmen, sophomores, juniors, or seniors, I've always believed that the best players in our program have given more of themselves than they've taken from the program, and that's their time, that's their energy, that's spending time with recruits or their parents, because they know the better young people that we get in here that are supportive of our vision and where we want to continue to take our program, then the better the program's going to be. And that takes, that takes no ego. That takes certainly an authentic belief in themselves to be able to have real life conversations with recruits and their families. So we're really fortunate that that's occurred.
Gotcha. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Randy Peterson from the Des Moines Register.
Good afternoon, Matt. What position groups were you looking to fortify, and were you successful in doing it?
Boy, I think with some of the additions even today, gosh, I think we feel really confident about our roster moving forward, maybe as confident today as maybe we've been in a long time, just in terms of, alignment. And, I think for us with losing, especially with our senior class, knowing, maybe some of the areas that we were going to really need to fortify to strengthen us moving forward, we really feel like we hit on that, on almost every single spot that we set out to, and probably the top guys on our board from, what we identified to what we were looking for, and that doesn't often happen. I give a lot of credit to Derek Hoosier. Derek does an incredible job in terms of our recruiting coordinator kind of guiding, just making sure our alignment of who we're bringing in terms of position group to continue to look 2-3 years down the road. And that's something that I really enjoy. And, for Derek and I to constantly be looking ahead, I think that's what we did in this class. And to be honest with you, we're really confident in what we were able to do today.
Jared Stansbury from Cyclone Fanatic.
Hey, Coach. You guys signed a couple of in-state linebackers. I'm interested to know what you guys see in Will and then Jacob.
Yeah, I think my starting point with both of those young men are winners. I think when you look at this whole class, Jared, we still got guys that are competing for state championships, and their seasons aren't done yet. And, when you talk about it, just even in state, you talk about obviously a state champion. You talk about a guy in Will McLaughlin that's a state champion. You talk about Jacob Ibbing, who had an incredible career and, kind of with his coach did an incredible job of building that program to be a deep playoff team. And so, overall in its entirety, it's still been the foundation of us building our football program. And then, even in state, you throw in Hunter Deo, another state champion, where you're talking about getting guys from programs that understand what it takes to be successful, know how to win, and then to be able to bring those qualities to Iowa State and continue to infuse our locker room with those very qualities.
Don Schaefer, WOI. You pick up Colby Reeder out of Delaware in the transfer portal. Kind of two-part question here. One, what can he bring right out of the gates for you guys when he gets here in the spring? And then two, how has the transfer portal changed the game for you, both losing guys and recruiting guys?
Yeah, it's certainly unique in its own right, and let me talk about Colby first, and then I'll spin back, John, to your second question. But I think from Colby's standpoint, again, you talk about football player, football family, a guy that probably could have come out and went to the NFL draft this coming year, but decided to come back to school to, enhance himself and certainly probably enhance his draft status. And, Colby was a huge win for our football program just because when you look at that videotape and you watch him play some of the elite linebacker play that we've had here, there's some very similar traits and qualities and characteristics. And you're talking about a guy that's also already performed at a high-end elite level with great consistency. To bring that into our program, to bridge the gap of some great older players coming back, and then also, this influx of really talented young players, to get a guy like Colby not only as a player but as a leader, as a young man that's coming here not only to better himself, but a great belief in Iowa State football and wanting to pick up that leadership torch for us. I think that's really big. And, the transfer portal obviously is what it is. It's new and it's unique. And, I think it's an adaptation. You lose players and you hate for that to happen, but that's part of our new world. And, I think the reality for us, our mentality in the transfer portal really hasn't changed. It's always continuing to get guys that align first and foremost with who we are, what our culture is, and what it stands for. And you try to do a great job on all the background pieces of those things. And then the second part of that is, if you can continue to support your program going forward, whether it's positionally, I think we've been really fortunate to be successful. You look at the guys that have come in and transferred in. A lot of those guys are already college graduates that are, on a mission either for a master's degree from Iowa State or on a mission to enhance our football program. I think we've been really fortunate to be successful in that very area. So, I think it's certainly unique, not so foreign because we've had, graduate transfers over the last couple years for us, and I think we've been really fortunate to be successful with that. But that'd probably be my answer to that question, and it's a really good question.
Bob Gray, Cedar Rapids Gazette.
Matt, it's interesting to ask you about the tight end position. Obviously, an in-state player in Gabe, and then Andrew, I'm sure you're very impressed with too. That's become such a huge part of your offense, obviously. How would you assess what those guys can bring to the table for you?
Yeah, and Rob, my starting point with both of those guys would be elite winners. I think when you look at Andrew Keller, won a state championship during his playing time, has won 2 or 3 state championships, maybe is a dynamic of an incoming tight end in terms of skill set that we've been able to recruit here at Iowa State, and just really excited about what he brings to the table. And, again, a great family, great character, an incredible leader, been a captain on his basketball team, been a captain on his football team, and a guy that's led success. And then when you talk about Gabe Burkle, I almost feel equally the same way as Gabe, kind of cut out of the Dylan Sainer, Chase Allen type physicality, big, physical, strong football player, a guy that had to overcome adversity his junior year, tore his ACL, and that's never easy, but bounced back, had an absolutely incredible year his senior year, put his team in the Final Four in the state, and one of the guys, when you talk about character, leadership, fighting through adversity, all things that we talk a lot about in our program, Gabe already defines that at an elite level. So to have both those young men, as mature as they are, to be able to come into our program, I think it's a huge win today for us.
Thanks again.
Randy Peterson, Des Moines Register.
Man, I got something here. There's a lot of talk about this date, this recruiting date, this December date moving back. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, gosh, I probably got a lot of thoughts on a lot of things right now, but I know you want me to answer those, Randy, but I probably need time to answer those. But here's the one thing I would say about the recruiting date is a positive. I know we got coaches going all over the place. I think from an Iowa State standpoint of our consistency and loyalty to build a program here, I think there is an advantage. These are young men that we have had relationships probably for well over almost a year and a half now. And these young men knew where they were going. And, I think for those young men to make the best decision for them and their family and to be able to be done with that decision and really kind of, put themselves in a great position to either, there's a really good chunk. We've got 11 mid-year enrollees coming into Iowa State, guys that are finishing up their finals here this week and then getting ready to spend the holidays with their families and then get to Ames here in the 1st of January. I think that's big. And then for those young men that are going to finish out their spring semester in high school, to be able to go with clarity and to be able to really concentrate on their own process and their own finish to their academic senior year and their athletic senior year and still come into Ames ready to rock and roll. I just think there's a lot of peace of mind to those young people. Now, do I understand with all the craziness that's going on in our profession? I do. I understand the uncertainty and certainly, the effect that it has on high school seniors. And do I think that's fair? I really don't. But I do think that from an Iowa State standpoint, it's been a really good situation because for us, the guys that know they're coming to Iowa State are guys that we've had relationships and authentic relationships for a good long time.
This has been the first full recruiting cycle with the name, image, and likeness. What's your takeaway on how if that came up during recruiting?
Well, it's probably come up at a lot of places. I don't know if it came up a whole heck of a lot in Ames, Iowa, or at Iowa State. Again, I think for us, our program, our culture is about team. And if you're about team, then you stay the course and you continue to believe that no one is ever bigger than the team. And we continue to do a great job with our first and foremost process of being about team. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have guys that have engaged and have had opportunities to profit off a name, image, and likeness. I think that's awesome. But as long as it's done through the process of team, those are the things that continue to be really important to me in our program. And I'm probably a dinosaur, even though I'm young, that I still believe that we play a great team sport, and team is really important to success of everybody.
Michael Swain, 247 Sports.
Hey, Matt, I want to get your opinion on Ekene Ezeogu. What did you maybe see from him coming out of high school, and what do you kind of see the long-term vision for him at Iowa State?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the most dynamic athletes of our recruiting class. And, I saw him 2 weeks ago, and I kind of joked with him just because I went and watched him play basketball, and I vividly remember 4 years ago watching Will McDonald play basketball and sitting in the gym watching practice, and elite burst, elite athleticism, this unique and powerful ability to change directions, and he certainly has every one of those tools. And I think for us, almost coming out of a high school program that has had great success, I know they were a bit down this year with some injuries that their team had, but what he has shown, the excellence that he's already shown, and then you talk about a young man of academic elite success. All those intangibles have all of us really excited about what he's got the ability to become as he comes here and develops going into the future.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Bill Fields, Cyclone Report.
Hey, Matt. One surprise, we don't get many of those here over the last 48 hours anymore leading up to signing day, but Tommy Hammond jumping on board. How did that whole process play out? I know that he camped over the summer and then was a game day visitor, but as you guys were, a couple weeks away, how did that whole process play out with him getting a scholarship and jumping on board?
Yeah, well, I let me say this about Tommy. One of the things that I still love about this recruiting process is it's never over. And as you know, Bill, it's still not over. And so, we're constantly evaluating the young people in terms of getting the right guys to Iowa State. And Tommy was probably in my, now 5 years doing summer camp at Iowa State, maybe had one of the best days against some of the top talent that came to our camp here at Iowa State. And Derek Hoosier and myself on Monday mornings usually sit and watch for about an hour recruiting tape of both seniors and juniors of guys that we're evaluating, and we watch Tommy almost every week. And when you watch Tommy's film, you see almost every elite trait that our great players have had. You've seen consistency, playmaking ability, the opportunity to put pressure on the quarterback. And, I think as the final hours started to kind of tick down towards this current recruiting class, I think we kind of looked at ourselves and said, man, this guy's exactly what we've been about. Fortunately had some opportunities to, go out and get the right people, and we really felt that way about Tommy. And so, we've done a great job with our recruiting staff and our coaching staff continuing a relationship with him and his family. And, I think that was such a special moment for us to be able to go and say, you know what, this is our kind of guy. He's earned the right to be here, and we want him leading the future of our program. So that was kind of how that went down, and certainly how the conversation went. And what I would say is it's a huge win for us in our program.
What about Caravious Norton as well? Does he compare to any of the backs that you've signed in recent years, or is he kind of one of his own? I know looks like he's one of like a multiple guy that you talk about so much.
Yeah, I would just say this about Caravious. I think what he is he's a guy that, you know, I would almost say this in terms of the recruiting process is similar as what Brock Purdy's was, you know, where Brock got injured his junior year, had very limited junior year videotape. Caravious had the same issue. He had a shoulder injury and a collarbone situation that happened early in his junior year, so there's only one game videotape. You know, to be able to go watch Caravious practice, to watch what he did this year, and then to meet him, I would just say he's got elite traits. Now, as we'll see as the future kind of unfolds, we'll see, you know, how the bright lights handle it, how coming in here, the work ethic, all those kind of things, that'll all be exciting to watch kind of unfold. But I would say one of the real special pieces to this recruiting class, and I think we're all really excited about him getting on campus. He'll be here in January, which is exciting.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Final question from Jared Sainsbury, Cyclone Fanatic.
I know you're obviously excited about all of these guys, but leading up to the next signing period, what's going to be the focus for you guys? Is there any particular position groups, or what's kind of going to be the goal for that group?
Yeah, I don't think much, honestly, Jared. I think really our mindset will kind of full throttle go into this 2023 recruiting class, you know, and obviously we'll evaluate where we are and kind of, you know, continue to make sure as we get ready and closer to January, making sure that the team that's coming back is certainly the right group and where we're at and where we're going. And, you know, if there is anybody else that we would bring in for the 2022 team, we'll make sure it's great fits. But I think we feel really confident today what this roster looks like coming back, and feel really excited about the opportunity to get to finish out this game, the Clemson game, with this current team, and give ourselves great energy going forward going into 2022. All right, guys, be safe. Thank you.